Okay, so today we're going to be washing some raw wool. This is some Shetland wool that I received from Amazing Grace Fiber Farm. You can look them up on Facebook. They were also so kind to send in samples of some nylon soft silk fiber and some mulberry silk fiber that I'm very excited to get to spin when I get time from all my other projects. When you are washing raw wool, you want to be sure that you don't felt it. So we need hot water and one of these mesh bags. This is kind of like a sport bag maybe, or even a lingerie bag that you would wash your delicates in is very helpful with this. Our water needs to be run before we add in our wool. My water here, and I apologize for all the noise, runs about 140 degrees. We're going to add a little bit of dish soap. And full transparency, this is my first time doing this, so do not consider me an expert. I'm going based on things I've read online, and I'm sure there are people out there who are much more experienced than I am and much smarter than me about this. But we want to get our water hot and soaked before we add our wool, because we do not want to agitate our wool. That will cause the felting. It causes the fibers to rub up against one another and to stick together, which makes it much harder to draft for spinning. So while this is filling up, I'm going to open one of these bags. I got 2 bags from them, and the reason why we wash the wool, of course, is because it came right from an animal. What do animals do? They sweat, they get in mud, they get in dirt, and need to be cleaned just the way we would wash our hair. The animal's hair needs to be washed also. So here you can see it does have a greasy feel to it. There's dirt. There's also likely some manure in here, but wool also has lanolin in it, and it does have it's not sticky, but it's not as though you had butter or vegetable oil on your fingers either. Many farmers coat their animals so that there's not as much what is called VM, or vegetable matter, which is simply little pieces of grass, hay, things like that. Sometimes, rather than coating their animals, they will do what's called skirting the wool, which means they go through and they pick some of these things out. It's a little bit of extra work that has to be done one way or the other. And naturally, if you are selling the wool, then the more work you put into it, the more you should be compensated for your time. This is totally raw, though. I don't believe it was skirted. I honestly can't remember because it's been a little while since I bought it. But it needs to be washed, and it will need to be combed. And I'm going to do my best to not felt it. You can see the little curls. This is part of, it's called fiber memory. And this is part of what also helps the yarn to hold its shape once it is spun. Now, wool can also be used for felting, and that is when you are intentional about making the yarn stick together. So we have our water. we have our suds. And now we are going to put the wool into our nylon bag. I don't want to fill the bag up too much because I want to make sure that it all gets soaked. Now if you have a sensitive sniffer and don't like the smell of farm animals, this will probably not be for you. It doesn't really bother me, and I say that because y'all can hear that clacking in the background. I'm sure my dog noticed the smell of the wool in the air, and she has come to investigate because she is nosy, bless her. She's a good girl though. So after we get the yarn in the mesh bag and then repair the tie on the bag, because apparently I tear things up when I try to talk and do things at the same time. It's okay, y'all. It's okay. Alright, so we got that back through. I've probably got around 8 ounces in here. And I'm simply going to submerge it in the water. Now, I probably should have put gloves on for this because this water is very hot. We are not going to stir it. We are not going to swish it or agitate it or anything like that. But we are just going to submerge it in there so that it all is subjected to the water so it can soak. And at this point, what we do is wait. Now, the staple length on this is actually really nice. And as you can see, it has that crimp in it. Let me get this other piece. It really shows all the little curls of the fluffy little sheep. And I wish I had a whole field of them. But maybe one day, if I can talk the hubby into it. Now, this did not feel very greasy, so I imagine it will not take long to get this, ouch, that water's hot, to get this clean. I'm going to pause the video and let it soak until the water has cooled some, maybe about 20-30 minutes, and then we'll pick back up and see what kind of results we have. Okay, so it has been 20 minutes. I had said 30, but then I couldn't wait. And I'm going to gently push back the bag so we can see that the water has definitely changed. It is no longer clear. We're washing out some of that lanolin, some of the sweat and dirt, and we're just going to gently press and gently move it. It has also soaked up a lot of the water. And what I'm going to do now, because we're going to need to let this soak a little more, I'm going to, yeah, you can really see a difference there. I'm going to pull this bag to the side and let this drain out and break my stopper, apparently. It's a day for that, y'all. I'm breaking things, tearing it up. And I'm going to pause the video here and fix my sink. Okay, so got that situated. I'm going to turn my hot water back on, rinse some of these suds out, let them go on down. In the meantime, I'm going to gently, and I want to emphasize gently, press on the bag to release some of that water. Again, we do not want to agitate this because we do not want to felt it. I want to be able to spin some lovely yarn out of this. I'm kind of mulling over the idea of dyeing it. I'm a little afraid to dye it as fiber. Water's not hot enough. Because I don't want to run the risk of felting it, and that would require heating it again. So I will most likely spin it and then dye it. And I'm really loving what I'm seeing online about natural dyes. So, and food safe dyes, you can do that with food coloring and things like that. So that'll be another video, and I'll kind of explore that a little bit. So I'm going to add some more dish soap. Everything I have read online says that when you are washing wool, oddly enough, do not use the detergents that say they are made for wool. A lot of the chemicals in it can be very damaging to raw wools. It can dry them out too much. And I about messed up. I let some of the water run over the wool. I'm going to continue to hold it to the side while this fills up. And ouch, again, I forgot my gloves. We're going to let this continue to fill up. We're going to soak for another 20 minutes and see what the water looks like then. Alright, so here we are again, checking in on the wool that we are washing. I'm going to gently pull this back and press some of the water out. You can see we still have quite a bit of dirt and other things coming out. So I'm going to do another soak. I'm going to let my water heat up. I'm going to rinse around, get some of what is stuck on the sides of the sink out. And once my water heats up, I will add some more soap and we will go again. As you can see, it is starting to look cleaner. It's starting to smell cleaner. Got looks like some vegetable matter in there, and that will need to be picked out after it's finished washing. So this really makes me appreciate our ancestors and just what they had to do every day just to have a normal day-to-day life with clothing. You know, they couldn't just run to Walmart or wherever they got, you know, we get clothes. They had to do all this, and to make their clothing, they had to raise the animals first of all, then shear them and process the wool. They had to spin it, then either weave it or knit or crochet or nail bind to make what they needed for day-to-day life. And when you really, it's kind of like you appreciate the baker more when you've learned to bake bread. And I'm really appreciating those that have gone on before us that figured all of this out and learned to make useful and beautiful things out of what they had in the world around them. I'm going to let these suds build up. I did remember to grab some tongs because I couldn't find the gloves I was looking for. And we're going to just press this wool back down, press the bag back down. Again, not agitating, being very gentle. Don't want to stir. We don't want to make these fibers interact with one another in a way that's going to cause them to felt. And just in case I forget to mention it at the end, these are fibers from animals. And like I said at the beginning, animals are in the dirt, they're in the mud, they have bowel movements, they do all the things that animals do. When you are working with raw fleece such as this, you want to work in an area that you are not preparing food. Now, yes, this is in my kitchen sink because it was this or my bathtub, and it's just a little easier to film here at the sink than at the tub. But if you are going to do any kind of food prep in the area where you are using, where you're washing your wool, you're going to need to scrub everything down very well. Once I finish this, I will be scrubbing my sink down extremely well, and then probably soaking it in bleach, just to be sure. I don't typically do food prep in here, but you don't want to wash your dishes in the same place as where you've had animal matter. So just a word of caution, and these tongs will now become designated for wool use only because I can't bleach them. Just something to consider before you start all of this. You do want to make sure you're doing this in a way that is safe and healthy. So we're going to let this soak another 30 minutes and go from there. As you could see from the last clip, the water had finally cleared. I ended up washing or rather soaking it 3 more times for about 20 to 30 minutes each. Then I hung the mesh bag up in my laundry room over a towel to drip dry overnight. And now, just for the sake of drying a little quicker, I have it spread out on an old window screen. Again, I'm a big believer in use what you got. And I have this laid out in a thinner layer so that maybe it will dry a little bit quicker. And once it is dry, I will show y'all what it looks like. You can already tell it's so much cleaner. It's so much brighter because we got a lot of that lanolin and sweat and dirt out. So our next step will be combing, and that will be in another video that I'm sure you will all look forward to. I'll be back once this is dry, and we'll take another look at it.